Awesome. We're here. Hey, live, everybody. How are you? Chuck Cook.
Greg Siskin.
Aaron Hall.
Jeff Joseph.
Oh, it's great to be here. Jeff's got his email up there. I need to find my email and stick that bad boy up there. It's great to be with you today. As many of you know that are Anunciato plaintiffs, we just got off a status conference call with Judge Seaboard, which I'm sure some of you thought, oh my goodness, this is terrible, terrible news. So let's talk about this case. Aaron, you and I were there. Jeff was hiding in the background a little bit. I could see why. You didn't have a tie on.
I was on the phone.
A tie on. Okay.
I was listening on the phone like all the other folks.
And apologize. I didn't know there was a 100-person limit on this either. So basically, the judge started the call by saying, I think the case is over, but I don't know. I'm not convinced of that. I'm not sure, because your complaint was basically the proclamation's terrible and the proclamation's gone. And he really wasn't taking a deep dive into the issue. Then he let us talk, right, Aaron? I mean, he got to talk. And I said, well, Judge, no, that's not really the issue here. The issue is still alive. I pointed out parts of the first amended complaint. Obviously, the second amended complaint was filed before Biden even became president. Government's already responded to it. It deals with these exact issues. And, he was like, well, you don't just get to keep changing your complaint. I said, well, actually, you do when you amend it by right. And we're not really changing it. We're just having to refocus it because of how the Biden administration, he thought, the one statement he made, Aaron, that really kind of shocked me was, this is all different now. The Biden administration is changing everything. No, they're not, Judge. I think he was a little surprised by that. The government certainly didn't correct me. What are the notes here? And he just said, let's go ahead. I think we should just brief it some more because you didn't get to respond to it. And the government should be doing something more specific. And the government, their response to that was, yeah, we think you're right, Judge. You dismiss the case, but we'll do he did ask this interesting question, Aaron, about alternative dispute resolution. Mm-hmm. What for our listeners here? What does that mean? What is ADR?
Well, it means resolving a case without making a judge make an order about it. And he kind of said that offhand, but I think under the surface, what he's saying is, hey, counsel, talk to each other. There's only a certain number of family-based and employment-based cases. What can be done about it? And we think it's obvious what can be done about it.
So because there's now 3 sets of people left in Anunciato. There are 23 families that are family-based immigrants, parents, children. There's 5 employment-based folks that are left. And there's 170 plus DV 2021 people. Because DV 2020, they're no longer part of the case. So the judge even said, why don't you just file a new lawsuit? Well, Aaron, we can, right?
Do that.
We can do that. Obviously, what that means, though, is the case is delayed because you got to prepare a new lawsuit. Government has time to respond. We'll have to do, the motion work for that. But so that Anunciato DV 2021 plaintiffs are aware, we're not abandoning anybody. So whatever we decide to do, whether we continue fighting here, whether we file a new suit, you're part of that. So you're protected as plaintiffs as part of that. And of course, for family-based and employment-based folks, we are developing a strategy to see if we can't get these visas issued and resolve this case affirmatively. We'll give you some more updates as that goes along. I think that this is something that the judge obviously could have avoided if he just issued an order in January after our oral argument. But it was clear he was waiting for Biden to do something. The only reason that Biden did anything was because they were forced to do it by you, DV 2021 people. You forced his hand on doing this. But especially for those that are still Schengen banned, it doesn't make any difference at all. So just understand we're going to be working with the government on this, and we will give you a further update, certainly by next week. But if you are an Anunciato plaintiff in the family or employment categories, we need your case number and your consulate. We have most people's, but we don't have everybody's. Can you just email us so that we can get your case number from the NVC as well as your location, so that we can, try to work out some alternative options that might be available to us. That sound fair, Aaron?
Yeah, and why that's important might be overly obvious, but what we're saying to them is here are our plaintiffs, here are their case numbers, here are the consulates. You want us to go away about this part of the case? We would love to go away and get out of your hair and save you briefing on this. Just get them their visas issued. Just get them adjudicated. And by providing them, providing the government attorneys that information, they can go to their clients at the Department of State and hopefully make that happen.
Yeah, sorry, I clicked the wrong thing here. So that's exactly what we need to do for you guys. So we're working on Anunciato. It's I don't think anybody's really surprised by the judge's order kind of talk today. You can tell one thing that I found particularly interesting, Aaron, was his mention of Judge Chen. This is I think the Jacob case. I think that's what that was, where it was a really good initial order from Judge Chen prior to the end of the year, and then Judge Chen just flipped completely, and they started talking about a special master. Special master is basically a lawyer who comes in and makes decisions instead of the judge, but obviously he's not going to do that. But you could tell the judges were concerned about the problem with the DV 2021 lottery, as we are. Now, I want to be clear, depending on how we move forward, we are still going to fight for every plaintiff. If we decide to move forward with a separate suit, we have a big list of everybody who wanted to join us. If we did that, we'll be reaching out to you. And we will be fighting for all 55,000 visas, only because there's no doubt that the State Department, even if there's a victory, even if there's plaintiffs that get first priority, until the visa bulletin is current, and there's no promise it ever will be this year because they're so far behind, we're going to have to get all 55,000 of those visas reserved. The good news is we put them on notice of this in November. So should we refile this, I think we've got a really great story to tell to the judge, and really bad actions by the State Department in wasting all the time in the world that they had to get these done. So that's it on Anunciato. Jeff, I want to give you some time on Milligan here, if you can give every folks an update about what's going on.
I will. So we will be filing the motion to amend the preliminary injunction this week. It's actually sitting in my inbox now from my attorneys who drafted it, and it's on my desk.
3 feet of snow? Under 3 feet of snow?
Yeah, exactly. We have about 4 feet of snow in Denver here. But I made it to the office today. I drove through and made it in. So, but other than that, all that I can report to you is that I am literally sending Joseph Carilli individual emails now every day. So Gus and Mary, I sent your email today about Montreal. I know that you're still out there from round one, along with Logan from Montreal. So, I mean, he knows you by name at this point from round one. I also wanted to tell you that those of you from Manila whose NVC visas have been canceled for failure to act within 1 year, I've sent those directly to him to make sure that he takes care of that situation. The person that was transferring from Sweden and it was locked down in Norway and Denmark, I did go to him. His response was, you have to ask the Copenhagen consulate if they'll accept the case. So it could be that you have to do that, but that's something you're going to have to work on your own. So please know that for Manila, Rio, all of you, we are working on your cases on an individual basis. I'm emailing with Joseph individually on all of them, and things are moving. Things are moving in the right direction. We're starting to see round 2 plaintiffs getting scheduled. Hopefully we'll start to see round 3 as well. So.
And our frustration, of course, with Manila is just Manila, right? I mean, they put that notice out that said, yeah, if you don't have a kid, we're not going to interview you.
Also, there's a new strain in Manila. There's, I mean, that always causes complications. If they go on lockdown, we have big problems. So we're doing our best to communicate on Manila. We know that there's 23 of you that have had zero movement. So we're aware of it.
Yeah, we're aware also of London and Moscow problems too.
Yeah, Moscow is particularly frustrating because it's not just affecting K1s; it's affecting lots of people, including DV 2021 folks there as well. All right, just Tate real quick. We had one of our Tate plaintiffs today in Stockholm had her visa canceled, the appointment canceled, of course. And we're working with Christopher Hare. He's the government attorney in that case, also with the Department of Justice, not oil, but with the U.S. Attorney's Office. And he's already reached back out to me and said he's talking to his client about what we can do to get either you move to a different consulate like London. But London had a very odd thing happen this week to one of our plaintiffs where maybe it was on Friday. He went for the appointment and they said, we don't know anything about Tate. You need an NIE. And he's like, you're interviewing me, which means I don't need an NIE. I mean, we've seen this before, haven't we, Jeff? They just literally, I never heard of that case. But then why are you interviewing me? It's clearly. And what ends up happening is a couple of days later, they issue the visa. This happened in Paris last week with Joy. So, yeah, you're going to get that. But again, it's been brought up to government counsel. We are not currently planning an a round 3 of 01s, and we'll tell you about why in a second. As it applies to Schengen. Jeff, did you want to talk about the DOL's case, the DOL or the H-1B wage rule case at all?
Other than to say that we have sort of agreed to a massive continuance of that case. The government, the DOL, has filed a rule delaying the implementation of the rule. And there's a comment period on that rule that delays the implementation of the rule. And the idea is after that, they'll probably publish another delay rule that'll have a comment period with the hope that this will all take, way into the future and sort of make the issue of the July 7th wages become.
Hopefully it'll quietly go away.
Yeah, it'll quietly go away. We will see a wage rule. I'm positive of that. But I think the way that the wage rule will be implemented will be a much more democratic process, and that's all I can really say about that.
Well, but the reality, that's the way it should have been in the first place.
Yes.
Democratic with a capital D or a small d.
And every time it's delayed, Stephen Miller dies just a little bit more.
Yeah. So DOL is pretty much over at this point. We've made good inroads on that.
That's good news. And just Jeff and I are also involved in a case called Mad Kudu on market analysts. Is it market analysts? I forget.
Yeah. Market research analysts.
Which we won along with our wonderful colleagues. Actually, Mary Kenny won this case at the American Immigration Council. Great job on this. But we're filing motion for summary judgment today on that case. Really declaring an end to the war on market research analysts within H-1B. So that's a good sign, especially now that we're in H-1B season, right? You should be putting in your lottery stuff, and we'll go from there. On the Gomez Acker case, we've sent an email out to the Acker. We are the Acker people. We've sent an email out to all the Acker folks to let us know that you're here. If you enter the country under Gomez/Acker, but if you're an Acker plaintiff, please let us know because we're going to dismiss you from the case. We need to know how many Acker plaintiffs did not get a visa in September. That's who we need to know. So if you're an Acker plaintiff and did not get us a visa, you need to let us know because we need to know how many people are left in the lawsuit going forward. But what we're trying to do in that case is to increase, our part of the argument is increasing the number of visas. And when we last talked to Judge Maida, he kind of brought that up on his own. So we remain confident that we can get more than that number, especially if we end up in front of him again for DV 2021. I mean, that might be kind of bringing the ball all the way around. So that's the Gomez Acker case. And Greg, do you want to talk about where we are on our new Schengen ban lawsuit?
Yeah, so we have several cases that we're in onboarding for, and that's probably the one that affects the most people. And we have to be careful not to call it Schengen ban. I've been already told that by people because it's that implies that it's just the European Union area. But basically, this is a ban. This case affects people in the 35 different countries that we have individual travel bans. if you're in one of these countries, you're not allowed to enter the United States for 14 days until after you've been out of these countries. You have to be outside for 14 days before you can enter the U.S. The part that we're interested in suing on is whether the State Department and the Trump administration, now the Biden administration, are all taking this illegal position that 212F, the section of the Immigration Act that allows for this, it says that the president can ban the entry of people that are deemed to where it's in the U.S. interest not to let them in. It doesn't say anything about visas, and this is the issue that we've litigated in Milligan, and an issue we've litigated in Tate. We've litigated this over and over again, and the judges pretty consistently say the bans on entry are permitted with Section 212F, not bans on visa issuance. And it's particularly important for people from these 35 countries who, especially like, people coming in family categories where they were like, 14 days is not a massive sacrifice in order to be able to be reunited with their loved ones. So the Biden administration is basically doubling down on that position. We know this from some positions that they've taken. We know this from the press conference that they had a couple weeks ago, where this question came up. So we are suing on this specific issue. It's not a mandamus case. This is a case where we're just challenging the legality of whether you can be banned from getting visas just simply because there's a travel ban. And we're not, so in this case, if you're, for example, in Anunciato, and you have a second ban that you're subject to, we're going to try and solve that other issue for you through this case. Also, there's a lot of people that are in this case. By the way, this is for all categories, not just immigrant visas. It's also for non-immigrant visas, and it's for all countries. So it's a very broad case in terms of the types of cases that we're willing to take on, as well as nationalities. But it's a very narrow case in terms of it's not a mandamus case. We're not going to be arguing that if we win this, that your case needs to be adjudicated immediately. We're just trying to clear this issue off the decks for you. So, we have a lot of people who have been waiting like well over a year, for example, in these consulates. And the only reason they haven't been scheduled for an interview is because of these travel bans. So for those people, once this issue is out of the way, they will probably likely get their interviews fairly soon. On the other hand, for people that are just getting to the consulates in their cases, they may not see an interview coming really quickly. And we're not asking for that in this case. Mandamus, if we ask for a mandamus across the board, would mean probably very slow results, and it would be it may not be a winner. So what we're doing as far as the mandamus issues go is we're taking, instead of broad multiple countries, we're going narrow single countries for our group suits on that. So we have a case for fiancés in Rio, and we have a case for fiancés in Cairo, and we're going to also be doing a case for spouses in Cairo, and maybe also for Manila, for K1s there as well. That's pure mandamus, where the arguments there are strictly focused on delays on there. And the idea, hopefully, is with these narrower cases, as well, with getting in front of other judges, is it'll be easier for the judges to really focus on the mandamus part of the case. Not to say that, Judge Boasberg in Milligan hasn't been a good judge. We love Judge Boasberg, but it is a massive undertaking for him to track, from the mandamus perspective, everything that's going on. We think with these narrower cases, it'll be easier to get the judges more engaged with the particulars of a particular consulate. So, Chuck, am I forgetting anything, or do you disagree with anything I said?
No, I think you've got them all covered. One of the questions that we're going to get to here, and this actually from your friend Phil Kinsley. Phil, hope you're doing well. he said this, any possible changes in March 31? Now, the idea on the Schengen ban lawsuit is to file it near the end of the month. I would love to not have to file it. Wouldn't it be great not to have to file it? Because Biden says there's no more bans. Everybody come in. Greg, is that going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. Although I think, first of all, we're filing this suit. We know about at least one other suit that's going to be filed, not on the same issue. It's going to be filed on the arbitrariness of the national interest exemptions, where, for example, students are exempted and E's and L's are not. So that's a different angle at this. And I'd like to think that maybe, our suit and that suit might be kind of a 1-2 punch that might make them, possibly think about alternative approaches that they could be doing on this, including, ending the visa ban itself, and then possibly going back on, more liberal national interest exemptions. So I do think that, we don't necessarily have to win on these cases. I think we will, in the long run we'll win, and we'll get some results potentially by preliminary injunction. But I don't necessarily think we need to wait. It's going to take until we get to a preliminary injunction before these lawsuits actually have some impact.
Yeah. So that's kind of, what having to push them to do the right thing, I think, was unthinkable to a lot of us who thought on January 21, man, all stuff's going to be
Nirvana.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on you. So no more shame.
This administration seems like they do the right thing after they're pushed hard enough.
Yeah, that's the lesson.
That's different than the last administration. But so we're happy to do the pushing.
We're going to do it. I do want to put Phil's comment up here. That's kind of what happened, isn't it? We don't make a decision for a long time. You end up getting this. Gus, Jeff already addressed this. I just want to let you know that Jeff talked about this. Your comment is from 5:59. So Jeff kind of went into this when he did the Milligan update. I just want you to know we got that. Rachel, thanks for emailing in. Stockholm, something's going on in Stockholm. And I don't know whether they're closed down for because it's affected different visa categories. It's not just K's or not just O's, or it's H's, it's L's. We have an L stuck there. So the consulate itself's got some issues. And that's part of the problem with a lot of these visa issuances. I think Jeff would agree on that, is, if there's a local issue, then we can't do anything about that. They get a new strain. Somebody at the consulate gets COVID. That we know that actually happens all the time here in the States in immigration court. We'll get an email that says, "Oh, we're closed in an hour for COVID," and then they're closed for a day to clean up. So that's part of the problem with this.
I do know too that we had one couple that transferred from Stockholm to Warsaw because of the Swedish travel ban. So that's another thing that somebody was able to do, is transfer their case to Warsaw.
And again, we'll work with you if you can transfer to another consulate. We will work with you with the lawyers assigned to the case to see, because again, you were invited to do so by the acting assistant secretary for consular affairs. You can freely move your cases. That's what she said at her press conference. So if there's a place you can go to, we're going to hold them to that as well. All right. By the way, Hussein, thank you for the Valentine's chocolate. It was awesome. He did. It was very nice of him. It was very good stuff. G Money wants to be the named plaintiff in the universal case. I don't think so. I love Phil Kinsley one, or Sven Olinsky. We got lots of people that want to do that.
Phil Kinsley is owed.
Yeah, he is. Jimmy, Amsterdam. Jeff, we haven't had any movement in round 2, have we?
Let me see. Let me check.
Check your list.
Amsterdam is a problem consulate.
Yeah.
We know about Amsterdam. We know about Paris.
No movement at all.
And yeah, Amsterdam is definitely there's something going on that with that.
Also realize that all these lawsuits kind of play together too, right? I mean, if we file this Schengen ban lawsuit, it also impacts
regional travel ban lawsuit.
Yeah, regional travel ban.
It impacts what's going on in your case. So you're going to have different judges coming at this from different angles and looking at what the other judges are doing. So, yeah, I think Greg's point about the 1-2 punch is a good one, and with the understanding that we've already, they've already gone through a few rounds with us on these issues.
They'll get it. Julie, we talked about the Brazil K1 litigation. Moving forward.
So we're onboarding folks for that. And we basically, the goal is always after the onboarding, we put the dates in there when the onboarding finishes, and the goal is usually to file within a week, 10 days, somewhere after that, to file after the onboarding is finished. So that's roughly what you'll know on that. We're getting some more support as well so that we can communicate with you a little bit more rapidly on the onboarding part of it. So you should be actually, if you send a declaration in Lily Axelrod in our office, I think it's Lily, but anyway, you're going to get an email acknowledging the declarations there and giving you some immediate feedback if there's any obvious stuff missing.
Okay. Bartek is a good question. From the perspective of diversity lottery 2021, it's a Schengen lawsuit we find better suited for certain types of plaintiffs that Curtis Morrison will be filing. I have no idea what Curtis Morrison is filing.
Yeah, I don't know what Curtis is filing.
On that. But we are considering a separate DV 2021. The regional travel ban lawsuit affects everybody in every visa category. Okay. That are in those consulates, because those consulates are using it not to issue visa. So it affects everybody, immigrant, non-immigrant, diversity. But there's a separate issue for diversity, which is you're not making the visas available. We need to use them. That's why that's a separate kind of application to this. Again, Anindita, this is again, Greg talked about this briefly a few minutes ago about this ban's probably not going away on that date. All right. Let's see. Do you think you'll get a quick decision on the Schengen ban? Well, Jeff, we're going to probably file this with a TRO at this point. I mean, there's no reason not to move immediately on that. It's not that the government doesn't have the ability to brief the issue. They've lost it 5 times. They can present their same useless arguments again. I don't see why we wouldn't just TRO this.
Yeah, there's not really a record. I mean, there's no record to be produced. It's not something.
You want to tell them what a TRO is?
A temporary restraining order.
Yeah,
decision.
I mean, you could do that, or we could file it and ask for summary judgment. I mean, there's a lot of ways to quickly resolve the case and ask the judge to resolve it quickly. But this is not one that requires a long, protracted lawsuit. Yeah. It really isn't.
Right. That's one of the benefits of going really narrow here as far as what we're asking for, as opposed to the mandamus, which would really complicate things.
All right. For say, Luis, recommend with current case number of countries not processing visas. Well, again, you were invited by the Acting Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs to call other embassies and see who will take your case.
You have to actually contact the consulate. A lot of consulates have a residence requirement. You actually have to be resident in their district in order to process there. Other consulates really don't care. And so it's really a matter of capacity and their willingness to take you. And so you have to inquire.
Yeah. Oscar loves my positive attitude because it's better to have a positive attitude than a negative attitude. Oscar, by the way, is in a very unique situation where he needs a visa reissued to come to the United States, not a diversity visa, and is, again, caught in the regional travel ban. I mean, that's part of the problem. All right. Our consulate, Johannesburg, stopped replying to our emails. Not the first time we've heard that, Sean, today. If you are a plaintiff in the lawsuit, please update the information online so Jeff can contact his contact.
Yeah. I mean, we did contact. Remember when Johannesburg was just giving plain incorrect information?
Yes.
We did.
My guess is they're being a little petulant right now because we
called them out on it. Did. We sent it to the U.S. attorney, and he said, "I will, I'll have counsel for the Department of State contact them." And I think that has happened. which, could have the unfortunate result if they're like, we're just not going to send you emails anymore, unfortunately.
They were also personally named in the new filing as well. So, yeah, they probably don't like getting called out. This is my favorite question of the day. Can we change the judge? No. You don't get this is part of the American system. You don't get to change the judge. You don't get to pick the judge. You can pick the court you file in, but assignments are completely random.
And if we refile the DV 2021 case, it's not necessarily going to be in California.
No, probably not. Monsignor, are you a priest? If so, how come you have a Milligan case? That's a little
there are people being processed.
Yeah, there are. And I mean, are they taking them? I mean, I had one, at least for an O recently, took a few days. But Paris, I mean, I was listening to the great news this morning. France has a major problem.
We had a round two interview that was done on February 21st and approved. So yeah, they're processing them in Paris.
Yeah, but France looks like they may be shutting down in the next couple of days. They've got a massive outbreak. Every one of their ICU beds are filled. So
I'm looking, by the way, at round 3 Paris, and we've had some movement on some round 3 people. We just had somebody just contacted us. They've had an interview scheduled.
Kiev just reopened. A plaintiff emailed me today and said they were scheduled for Kiev. So the Ukraine is open for business, apparently. Let's see. This is actually kind of a random question, not really part of what we've talked about. This is somebody who's affected by the Acker lawsuit by Ayla, which, Jeff, you are a plaintiff's lawyer on. I guess we all are, kind of. We didn't even talk today.
So this we actually personally had plaintiffs that were impacted by this. So we joined with a law firm called Mintz-Levin in Massachusetts that is the lead counsel. And then the American Immigration Council, a woman named Leslie Dellin, and then the American Immigration Lawyers Association as well. So it's a conglomeration of 2 nonprofits and a few law firms, and we're suing on this rejection. So the idea is that, the way that the H-1B lottery worked is that they selected numbers and they thought they had sufficient numbers, and then they opened up a second lottery later. And when you filed under that second lottery, your start date necessarily could not be October 1st, because by the time they opened up the second lottery, it was past October 1st. But USCIS rejected petitions unless you listed a start date of October 1st, even though you signed the forms under penalty of perjury that you're telling the truth, and your start date is not October 1st.
This seems like a slam dunk.
It is a 100% slam dunk. It is not only that, but we resubmitted and got rejected a second time. I mean, we tried to explain that, it should be a slam dunk, but watch out for that one. I imagine if it gets resolved, there will be a global settlement for everyone that got rejected in this situation.
Somebody said, I asked this, was today's case about DV 2020 is no longer involved in Anunciato, because that part of Anunciato was let him in the country, you can come in. So you are a DV 2020 winner, and with visa, you better get your tiny little butt to the United States now.
Right, we didn't have anybody in Anunciato that didn't. They all had visas. Right, they all had visas. The only thing that was a holdup was the immigrant visa ban, and now that that's lifted, they should be able to enter. So if you're, chucking, and that effect, even people who had visas that expired are still permitted to enter.
Yeah, I know some people are still having issues. Some airlines not letting you board the plane with your expired visas. Get a hold of that CBP notice that we put on Twitter and put out on our website that just says, look, expired visas are good if they're DV. You just carry that. And if the plane is saying no, the airport or the airline saying no, tell them to call CBP. CBP has a number for them to call, and you will be pre-cleared, but you have to be insistent. Heb says that... Yeah, the judge came out of the blue with that, by the way. They're adjudicating visas. We know that they've adjudicated something like 700 DV visas for 2021. 700 of it. That includes in the United States, by the way. That's not at consulates. That's in the United States. I'm going to be interested to see March's numbers when we know they didn't even start interviewing for 2 weeks after Biden already got rid of the ban. So we'll go for there. All right. Somebody asked the special master. There's not going to be a special master. That's not going to happen. And by the way, special masters, you know what they do? They take a long time because they get paid by the hour. That's not something we want to do here. All due respect to special masters, we don't want a special master. Okay. And here's somebody who still doesn't get the necessity of having all 55,000 visas reserved, because we have plaintiffs with high numbers. And if all 55,000 visas aren't reserved, then not all the plaintiffs are going to have an opportunity to get your visa. It's just common sense. So stop asking the question. Thank you. Yes, because in Norway.
And by the way, I mean, look, we keep saying it. We'll say it over and over again. It is true, especially in a Mandamus case, being a named plaintiff has advantages. You definitely get attention to your case. But everything that happens in these cases advantages all of you. So it really is not appropriate to be complaining about the plaintiffs in these cases, because everything that happens is going to advantage every single person in the world.
Yes, Emma. Love your avatar, Emma, by the way. Yes, again, you can ask other consulates to get your visa, to take your case, but they have to agree. You don't just say, move my case there. They have to agree to that in advance. In London, yeah, London's been a little slow. I was talking to a friend of mine in London about COVID, and he said they're going back and forth on opening and reopening. And Greg,
by the way, I just looked up London in the update spreadsheet that which makes it real easy when you guys fill out that form. It's much easier for us to give you statistics and all that. And I can tell you that for round 3. We have, there's nobody that there's not a single interview that's been scheduled yet for anybody that's updated us. There are a number of people who've had their cases transferred recently from NVC to the consulates, which is usually, showing that's usually progress on there. There's still a bunch of people that are still at NVC, but there are, it looks like a couple dozen people who've had their cases transferred from NBC over to the consulate in the last couple of weeks. So it's not completely frozen.
All right. This is a good question. It's actually a good comment. Actually, we could use this. Switzerland is going to start interviewing in April for DV cases, 6 weeks after Biden lifts the ban on DV processing. Mm-hmm. That will make a good exhibit. If you can get us something on that, if you can email Jeff or Greg or Aaron or Jeff or me, please do so, because that will be a great exhibit in a complaint. Again, we're not involved in the Jacob case. I haven't followed the Jacob case. I don't know, other than that Judge Chen was favorable and then he wasn't favorable, but I don't know anything beyond that.
Somebody did raise the question of, if we filed in California, would it be joined with the Jacob case? And I don't know enough about the Jacob case to know if the claims are the same. I honestly don't know that.
Yeah, if we file again, we will likely not file in California because of that Ninth Circuit case that just. It's banned on proclamations, but I don't want to give them the risk of doing it. And we have great case law in DC on the issue of the regional travel bans. We have great case law on that and on the DV lottery. In fact, DC may be the only district in the country with great case law on the lottery from several years ago. From the district from the Court of Appeal.
What's the timing? Can you talk a little bit about the timing on the Milligan appeal?
Good question. I think it's, I would anticipate that we will delay the production of the record. So there's no movement on it right now. We've just all entered our appearances and we've kind of stipulated about what the legal issues are going to be, and that's it right now.
Okay, so nothing imminent happening there.
So if France goes on a lockdown, like any country goes on a lockdown, the consulate's not going to work. They're just not. And honestly, no judge is going to make them work during a COVID lockdown. That's why you want to explore another country for possible visa processing. It doesn't have to be, by the way, on the same continent. You know, COVID is not a problem in vast chunks of Africa. In vast chunks of Africa, COVID is not a problem. I'm not saying to go to Africa. I'm just saying it's not a big deal there, and maybe the consulates will take you. I could not put this up, Jeff, because now I'm going to go home and watch The Good Place on Netflix.
I love that show.
Me too. I'm curious now.
I've never even heard of it before.
I'm Jeff the doorman. Some days I would rather be a doorman.
Yeah. Again, Vin, don't think that Amsterdam's the only place. Ask people in Manila and Stockholm and London. It's not, not just there. So my fiance is Swedish, living in Norway. Due to the trouble in Scandinavia, she just moves home to Sweden to get it done quicker. Yeah. Yeah,
this is kind of what I was talking about before. And I'll be honest, I don't know about the travel ban in Scandinavia. I understand that there's some Norway, Denmark, Sweden issue, right? Where you can't travel across borders in those three countries. And that's what I was referring to before when I said we had a consulate a client that transferred to Warsaw. So if you're in this situation where there's this internal travel ban in Scandinavia, you should look to see if you can move it to a different place.
All right. Round 3 plaintiffs from Milligan have priority in Brazil above anybody else that comes afterwards. Greg, what does Milligan look like for round 3 in Brazil? Do you have anything on the spreadsheet there? I know people have been getting appointments.
Yeah, we know that that Brazil is a mix of activity. Mostly. We do have some interviews scheduled for round 3 people. I'm just looking at this, at least 4, 5, 6. This is round 3, so we at least have a half a dozen.
And don't forget, they had to send the packages to Brazil by slow boat via China to get there in time.
It looks like so we have about half a dozen plaintiffs that have already been scheduled for interviews for round 3, and then we do have quite a few who've had their cases transferred recently from NVC to the consulate. There are still some at NVC, but it looks like most of the Rio people, the cases have left, are not at NVC anymore. There still are some. So if you're in that group, I'm not saying there aren't any, but the bulk of Rio cases have been transferred or scheduled for interviews.
As far as Islamabad, I can't tell you anything about Islamabad. Neil, is Neil a plaintiff in this case in Islamabad? I don't recall there being.
I don't think we have. We had somebody in round 1 who got his visa ages ago, and they're already married. But I don't think we have Islamabad. Certainly nobody that sent an update in.
No. So, yes, Nicholas, of course use your I-129F to show your fiance to get into Spain. Have some paella when you're there. I hear it's wonderful. Greg, FYI, the Brazil K1 payment link is not working.
The payment link is Jeff's firm.
Okay, let me email Kirby and tell her that.
Oh, yeah.
It could be Microsoft today. Do you do anything with Microsoft for your web server?
Yes.
Yeah, Microsoft, for those of you who are not hanging out on Twitter or the news, is they've had a worldwide system failure today, and a lot of any apps that anybody relies on Microsoft for Office 365 or Teams or any of that stuff for web hosting have had problems.
It's weird because I didn't get impacted by that at all today.
We were knocked off for a while.
All right. I don't know what K-12 visa case is, Danielle. I'm sorry.
K through 12? I'm just thinking of like kindergarten for 12th grade.
Jeff mentioned in Milligan a blanket NIE for K1s on the table during settlement discussions. Any update? No.
we put a bunch of things on the table for ways to resolve this globally, and he went back and said the answer was, we just don't know what's going on with the proclamation in general, so it's hard for me to negotiate with you. And at that time, the proclamation had not been, none of them had been lifted or anything. So he basically there's no news because he doesn't know what's happening with everything.
Sahar, yes, in fact, we did ask the judge in our preliminary injunction to reserve the visas, and we'll see where we go from there. But yes, as I explained earlier, very, very important. London, waiting for an appointment, says August, appointment booked August. Sounds like new case would be a good fit for me. Yes, Amy, the new regional ban lawsuit would be a good place to end up. That's why we're not filing an 01 round 3, because the 01s have really been limited to regional ban countries, and this does exactly the same thing. Okay. Let's see. A lot of Brazil questions which are already answered. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Amy, London should stop making excuses. And apparently Germany's got a little problem with the vaccine. So, oops.
Yeah, did you hear about this?
I heard today that's not really fair.
There's some link between AstraZeneca and blood clots. So
yeah, but now apparently there's data to show that the risk is actually no worse than to the general public on there. I'm not. I think AstraZeneca was getting a rough ride. Chuck, I'm about to private message you the address for people that are interested in the Schengen, the regional travel ban case on there.
Kirby, sorry, Greg, to interrupt, but Kirby just said she tried the link and it's working. But if you have problems, you can email Mike Schaumler directly and he'll help you.
Right.
I will put that up, Greg, because I actually have.
It's a longer. Yeah, I apologize for the longer link, but that's how my WordPress.
Well, it is what it is. I put it in the comment section, and let me put it here on the banner as well for the regional.
There's no V at the beginning, by the way. I apologize for that. That was just a.
Oh, actually, I put it on my page too. So it all goes to the same data. So. I followed your advice, Greg, and put it up. So
good.
We had it right there. All right, a couple more comments here. London seems not making excuses. We did that. Many couples, they want to know how many people are interested. If there's not 73 couples signed up, how many do we have signed up so far, Greg?
I think it's hold on a second. Brazil, it looks like about 30. 32 or 33.
So we need some more in order to justify the lawsuit. This person's clearly round 3 Milligan feels he was deported, needs a waiver. Oh, dude, that's a problem for you because the waiver is only going to be requested by the consulate once they interview her, and then they'll say, "Oh, you need a waiver," and then you'll have to file the waiver, which.
Yeah, Ryan, if you don't have a lawyer, you definitely
need a lawyer, man.
You need a lawyer.
You need a lawyer for that. That's just the way it is. So last week we shared an article about embassies that could do interviews through webcam. I don't recall. I mean, I think we told them they should be doing that, but I don't recall. Jeff, Greg, do you recall that?
That might have been Curtis's Facebook Live.
Oh, I don't recall that.
Last week you shared an article about embassies that could do interviews through webcam, and yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I'm at a loss as well. Let's see. My feeling on Anunciato. I'm going to have you scroll back, Andre, to the very part of first 8 minutes of our discussion today when we're done, and you can get my feelings on Anunciato. All right. What are the rules on transferring a case from Manila to a different island? Okay. Here's the rule. You call the consulate that you would like to transfer to. Give you a recommendation. Don't call Tokyo because they're ticked off at all the Filipinos that came with the new variant from COVID. So don't be surprised if you're from Philippines and nobody wants you because there's a new Philippine variant to COVID. but you call the consulate first or email the consulate and say, here's my situation. You have to have a really, really good reason why you transfer. I'm getting an operation, or I have a problem with my dog, or there's some compelling reason to get them to accept that third country case. And then it's completely discretionary. They don't have to do it. But do mention that you are acting on the advice of the acting Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs who told you to do this. Okay. I just love saying that.
What's her name?
The acting Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs. I don't recall.
Stacey Pluft or something like that.
I don't recall. Yeah, I think it is something like that, actually. All right, let's see. Let's see.
Somebody was asking about Dublin. I can tell you about that. I just looked it up.
Yeah, look at Dublin. Somebody else got an interview there recently.
Yeah, so Dublin, and this is Liam that's asking about it. We do have one. There is a round 3 person who has an interview scheduled for mid-April, and we do have a couple of people still stuck at the MVC. Well, one person stuck at the MVC. One person has had their case transferred, and then Liam, we've got your update. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Here's what Amy's trying to clarify that previous question about this was about them going from a 2-year, you don't need an interview if it's been 2 years or less.
Oh, I know it.
4-year. Yeah, that's
not video interviews. I thought that's what the question was. The article was about. And no, they're not. They're just waiving interviews so that you don't have to do them, which is great. That's one of the ways that they can get out of this, get out from under this mess, is just to allow a lot of this to happen without interviews. And they do have the authority to do video interviews. I researched this issue because I was helping on some legislation from last Congress that was designed to force the Department of State to do video interviews, and that actually passed the House, that language. But they have the authority to. The only reason that they were putting it in legislation was because the Trump administration was refusing to use their discretionary authority to do it. But if the Biden administration wants to do it, they can do it.
Okay, Bogota is resuming operations. That's a good sign. If you are IR1, you should be priority. That's their number one priority. So you should be hopping on that.
It should be the priority everywhere. That's why we're going to be litigating IR1s in Cairo because they have not been working on those cases. So that may be something we do more of soon as well.
All right. If you're a citizen of somewhere in North Africa, you should be contacting that consulate. Honestly, if you're a citizen there, they're supposed to take you. That's almost kind of a mandatory transfer. But do check out the CEAC statistics first and make sure that they are operating on that.
Oh, speaking of North Africa, I got this question today, and I just want to clarify in case anybody's on. So regarding our Cairo litigation, Cairo is apparently the place where people from Yemen are processing their immigrant visas. And the question was whether they could participate in the suit, and the answer is yes on there. This is about a problem consulate. It's not about nationality. So if you're processing, if you're designated to process in Cairo, or you are processing Cairo, your case is stuck there, then this would be something that you could use. This litigation would be helpful for you.
Martin, yes, Kiev is open. If she's in Ireland, see if Kiev will take her. Somebody else just transferred their case there today. I know that for a fact. Zach, we're not going to post the spreadsheet because it contains private information, so we're not going to post that. But if you have questions about specific consulates, please send them over. We're happy to answer those. You also can get private counsel to give you that same information, but we can't post a general spreadsheet on that because of the private information that's contained in there. Will there be a time limit for DV 2020 folks to get their visas if this part of the case is won and the judge or Congress gives them a visa? Yeah, I imagine the judge Meda will set a timeline, probably 6 months, but more than enough time to use all the visas. And I imagine he will require frequent updates from the Department of State to show that they're complying with his order. Yes, Igor, you should pay attention to our web pages and tweets in the next couple of days about that. Let's see. Do you think the government might consider taking control of the proclamation if they have a high percentage of the population vaccinated? Well, clearly they should. Or how about instead of a ban, you just have to have a vaccination or take a test or multiple tests?
Or how about the government gives you a vaccine when you go for your consular interview? That might be the kind of cool thing to do.
We got lots of them. I was just reading an article about this here in the States, that the U.S. State Department is refusing to prioritize foreign diplomats in the United States for their vaccines, even though they would be considered essential workers because they're at work every single day. They said, no, sorry, get in line with everybody else. And just kind of, talk about literally cutting your nose off to spite your face. You could be doing stuff to help other people, and you're supposed to be the administration that does that, and you don't do it? Okay. Are you guys aware of Plaintiff PDF, Plaintiff name in the PDF with 100 pages and all their background? No, I'm not aware of that. Where is that, Revax? Because we'll take that down wherever it happens to be. Let's see. All right, that kind of gets all the questions that haven't been answered previously. So if you had a kind of a late question, we have no information about Tbilisi. Sorry on that. If we didn't get to your questions, because it's already been answered earlier in today's program. If anything happens or breaks this week, I'm sure we'll do a quick update on that. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next Monday night at 6 o'clock. And thank you again for allowing us to work with you to get your visas and to begin this part of your life. We're as frustrated as you are on these delays. We're as frustrated as you are with our own government, State Department, and we're going to keep working our butts off to get you over here. So thank you again. You all have a great night.